What did we learn about Spencer Stastney's arbitration over the weekend, and what could next season look like for veteran Luke Schenn? We're going to talk about all that and a little optimistic ice geography on today's Locked On Predators podcast.
You're Locked On Predators, your daily podcast on the Nashville Predators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Predators podcast, and thank you for making us your first listen of the day. We are your free daily Nashville Predators podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Want to kick off this Monday episode with a shout out to our Locked On Pred heads. Those are our everyday listeners who tune in to talk Nashville Predators hockey with us each and every day. We appreciate your support, and we love that we get to spend a little bit of your day with you. I'm Ann Kimmel. I am a writer with Penalty Box Radio, and my friends, I have a partner in crime.
You do. I'm Emma Lingen, and I'm the Predators site editor and reporter for the Hockey News.
On today's show, Emma and I are going to take a closer look at that arbitration situation with Spencer Stastney. Elliot Friedman gave some more information about what's going on over the weekend. We are also going to talk about Luke Schenn and what does next season look like for the veteran defenseman. We're also going to take a look at a very positive statistic, a positive graphic from the NHL that Nashville Predators fans, I think, are really going to like. But before we dive into all that good stuff, want to let you know today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Okay, Emma, over the weekend, we got a little bit more information on the Spencer Stastney arbitration situation from NHL insider Elliot Friedman. He kind of revealed what each side was asking for as they went into arbitration. A couple of things that I think we want to make sure we clear up. First of all, everybody breathe. Spencer Stastney is a Nashville Predator. I feel like there's been some confusion about arbitration, and I get it. It's not something that you experience very often, but nothing that happens means that Spencer Stastney will be anything but with the Nashville Predators organization next season. Am I correct, Emma, or am I correct?
You are correct. I swear. I love y'all. I love it when you reach out, but please stop reaching out to ask if the Preds are signing Spencer Stastney. He's already signed. That's the thing. He's an RFA. It's just as you say, Ann, the hitch and the giddy up is for how much and for how long.
For how much and for how long? Yes. So Spencer, this is going to be locked on Spencer Stastney for a while. Nobody panic. Stastney cannot be anything but a Nashville Predator. He has to stay with the franchise. But they are going to arbitration, like Emma said, to talk about how long and how much. And over the weekend, Elliot Friedman gave us what each side was asking. So Nashville asking for a 2-year, two-way deal. In 2024-25, he would make $775,000 at the NHL level, $125,000 at the AHL level. In 25-26, he would make $775,000 at the NHL level, $175,000 at the AHL level. Spencer Stastney's team is asking for a 1-year, one-way deal at $950,000. So, Emma, break this down to us. Let's talk about it simply. Besides dollar amount, which we can get into, what is the biggest difference between the two sides? Like, explain it to us. Where are they apart?
So I think the biggest thing here the biggest reason for the difference here is obviously we've talked about this before, that the Predators are up against the salary cap, and a one-way deal means that it's going to be a lot harder to ever send Stastney back down to the AHL. He'll have to clear waivers. It'll be a whole thing. And so that, and that money, again, what was it, 950? That's not
Mhm.
in the grand scheme of things, it's not a ton, but it does count against the salary cap. And at present, the Predators do not have that space in the
Right.
salary cap, which is fine. They're allowed to be over the cap during the offseason. They just have to be cap compliant by October. But that's the biggest thing. They're just trying to be financially responsible. And if they can get this deal done and not have it immediately count against the salary cap, then they're going to do it. And so that's why they want to have the 2-year, two-way deal where they have the freedom to send him up and down. Maybe they think that he is not going to play every night, at the NHL level. So we want to give ourselves the flexibility to be able to do that. It's not going to count as much against the salary cap, et cetera, et cetera. Meanwhile, Stastney and his camp are saying, no, I want my money now. Like I want
Mhm.
the money up front. And
Yeah.
I think he's earned it. And I see a lot of arguments and people saying like, he's only 24, he's only played 30 games, it's not, he hasn't earned that. This is a silly case to bring to arbitration, all that stuff. And it's like, well, it's not though, because I think that he is a top defensive prospect and he has
Yeah.
proven that he is ready for a full-time NHL role. And so he just, his agent, his camp, whoever, they just don't want him to get taken advantage of. And that's the agent's job. Like that's what they're supposed to do. And so I think that the dollar amount itself might sound silly, that like, why are we arguing over nickels and dimes like this? Like it's not that big of a deal. But really what it comes down to is the terms of the contract, where
Mhm.
if he's on a one-way deal, it's going to be a lot harder to send him down to the AHL. If he's on a two-way deal, that gives the team a lot more flexibility, but that also gives them the flexibility to not pay him as much, which
Right.
again, it's not a knock on him. It's just a team that's up against the salary cap right now. And so wherever they can pinch pennies, they're going to. And
Right.
so, it's not that they're necessarily trying to lowball him or anything like that, but I think what will end up happening, it sounds to me like what will end up happening is things are going to come out probably closer to what Stastny's asking for than what the team wants.
Mhm.
It'll be somewhere in between 775 and 950. I think that is, definitely that'll happen. And I think it'll probably be that 1-year, one-way deal, but just for less than he's asking for.
Right.
I think just based on everything I've seen, that seems like the most likely result here.
I'm very curious, not so much about the money, but about how is it gonna be settled, a two-way deal or a one-way deal? I'm so curious about that. There are very specific boundaries about what an arbiter can take into consideration. So this isn't just like, "I'm going on gut," or "Give me a good closing argument and sway me." It has, there's only certain evidence that you can bring into an arbitration case. Has to do with like games played and whether injuries factored into that, tenure with the team, statistics like performance statistics. They take into effect, leadership. They take in comparable player comparison, which is a tricky thing in Spencer Stastny's case, I think a little bit. Um, so it'll be interesting to see how this weighs out, because so much of Stastny's value is about what he will do. Now, I think he has proven that he is an NHL player. I think he has proven that he has some very elite skills. Lots of room to grow in the NHL. There's going to be a learning curve. But I do think so much about what Stastny brings to the table has to do with what he brings to the team next season. His specific skill set, his skating, his speed, the way he closes. So it's going to be interesting to me to see how this all sorts out for Nashville. The other thing that I hate, and I'm not going to lie, Emma, is because you sit in a room and people say things, and you always, like, I know when Yakov Trenin went to arbitration, it was brought up, well, he didn't score any goals in the first 15 games. Well, I mean, That's a statistical fact. Facts are facts. But also, B, you don't want to sit in the room and have your boss point that out in front of other people. So,
It's like, imagine having a performance review at work, but there's an audience of people
yes.
listening to here's everything you've done wrong in the last year.
Yes. Yeah. And here's how much money we're going to pay you based on that. Like,
Yeah.
it's just, there's a dynamic of it. But again, this is the business side of things. And I think the big takeaway is we'll have an answer very soon. Arbitration does not drag on. There is an endpoint where they have to rule. So as of the time of this recording, we have not heard that yet. It will be coming very shortly. And also the takeaway is Spencer Stastney is a Nashville Predator. So
Yes.
this is going to be locked on Spencer Stastney for a while to come, friends. Nobody fret. Nobody fret. Coming up, we're going to talk about how changes on defense, things like Spencer Stastney, the addition of Brady Skjei. We got a question from one of our insiders about those changes and what they may mean for veteran defenseman Luke Schenn. We're going to talk about that coming up. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. If you are looking for some great summer activities or events, you need to check out Game Time. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. My husband and I have been talking about checking out a Nashville Sounds game once the weather's a little bit more tolerable, and the place where we will go to get those tickets is Game Time. You can also find great deals on concerts like Five Finger Death Punch and Avril Lavigne. Cirque du Soleil's Song Blazers is coming to TPAC, and comedian Matt Rife will be in town. You can find all those tickets on Game Time. The Game Time app is the fastest and easiest way to get tickets for whatever you are interested in. They offer great last minute deals and flash deals, and my favorite part is their all-in pricing, so there's no shocking surprise fees at checkout. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. So this week, Emma and I got a question that came in via the insider program from one of our insiders, Tango. And this was such a great question. We were going to save it for the mailbag. And then as we were just kind of thinking through Spencer Stastney and the defense, we're like, look, this just ties in. So first of all, Tango, thank you for this question. Great question. And also, if you're interested in getting questions to Emma and I, you can check out our insider program. There is information in the description of this video and also in our bio as well. But this is such a great question. Wanting to know, what does the future look like for Luke Schenn? Because let's face it, the Nashville Predators made some moves on defense. Some things have changed. What is next season going to look like? How is he going to fit in with the Nashville Predators? Emma, you want to start this off? Because I think this is it's a very interesting discussion when it comes to Luke Schenn.
It is, yes. And I think that there are two questions. One is like, what do we think is going to happen with Luke Schenn, or what do we think should happen with Luke Schenn? And I think those are two different questions.
They may be.
So the way I see it right now, I don't see anything changing for Luke Schenn as far as his role on the defense. I see him as a third pairing defenseman, likely with Spencer Stastney. I with what he's being paid, and to be fair, I think the leadership he brings to this team and the value he brings, and he honestly has been one of the instrumental pieces in getting Steven Stamkos here. Like he's very valuable, off the ice as well. And to give credit where it's due, he did come up big during the playoff series against Vancouver.
For sure.
And so I think that, is he the most skilled defenseman or the most capable of playing an Andrew Brunette system? no. But I think that first of all, they're not moving that contract, and he's valuable in other ways. And so while I don't necessarily agree or think that he is the best guy to have out there on the ice all the time, like it is what it is. That's kind of how I see it. I don't think Skjei's arrival is going to do absolutely anything for, like, in terms of altering Schenn's role. I see him as a third pairing D-man with, like I said, Stastney most likely, which is unfortunate only in the sense that, I think it's good. Stastney's, he's young, he's smaller, he's, can use the bigger, protection that Schenn provides. The reason I say it's unfortunate is just because if you're limiting Schenn's ice time, you're also limiting Stastney's. And so, like, that is something you have to consider. That, I mean, again, we'll see how it goes. I could be totally wrong. I could be way off, and maybe that's not the case. But I think that, me personally, and I've said this before, if we're talking about a third pairing with, Stastney and whoever, I personally would take Dante Fabro every day. Like, I would want Dante Fabro out there. But just based on the way that this team does things, I'm not necessarily expecting that to be the case. But again, could be wrong. I don't know, but it comes down to, I don't see Brady Skjei's arrival or Ryan McDonagh's departure doing anything to alter Schenn's role on this team.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with what you're saying. I feel like he is he is the third pairing pick. Would I say he's exceptional at that? Not necessarily, but you look at one of the big takeaways, I think, for everybody from that Vancouver postseason series was Nashville has got to get some size on defense. Well, I would like to introduce you to Fred Flintstone / Luke Schenn. I mean, he is just a large presence, but he is not necessarily built for, like you said, Andrew Brunette's system. Not built for speed, just aerodynamically, maybe not built for speed. But
he's built for speed, but, like, it's not just that. I mean, there were too many, for my taste, too many, like, kind of lazy plays, like going out there trying to, kind of half-hearted, kind of blocks and things like that, where I'm just like, what are we doing? Like,
what are we doing here? What are we doing?
Like, you can be big and that's great, but, like,
apply yourself.
If you're gonna play an Andrew Brunette style of hockey, especially defense, like, apply yourself.
Yeah,
you can be more.
We also did not see the best of Luke Schenn from the get-go. I mean, you want to talk about the worst way to start off a new contract that already had some eyebrows raised when it was signed, and you play one game, and then I think he missed, like, the next 7 weeks with a significant injury. And then you have to now try to catch up with where the team is at as far as getting the system down and getting back to, your peak speed and all of that. I do agree with what you say, though, because this is somebody who has a lot of value off ice. Like, look, this guy is loved in the locker room. Love him or hate him on the ice, they love him in the locker room. He is that serial winner that Barry Trotz loves. And there is a part of me that likes him with Spencer Stastney. But I think you make a good point about that also limits Spencer Stastney if those two are on the ice. And, those are very much opposites attract as far as styles when they're on the ice together. And that can be a blessing and that can be a curse. And I'm not sure how that's going to work out. So I think we'll get a better idea of how Schenn can contribute earlier this season, hopefully staying healthy. But I'm with you. This contract is not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Unless it's carried on a silver tray by Yaroslav Askarov, who is headed off to a new team. Like, I just don't, another team is just not going to do it. And I think Nashville will get out of him. They will drain all of the leadership and wisdom and experience out of Luke Schenn that they can, and they will take what he gives them on ice.
Yeah.
And so I think we're looking at probably a similar role, hopefully more games. I think he only played 63 games last season with injuries. So,
which even that feels like a lot. It felt like
it
he was out for a
does.
long time.
It
Like, I
does.
mean, and again, in fairness to him, his injury that he's, suffered in the first game, it required surgery. Like, it was a significant injury. And the fact that he came back and, I want to give him credit for that,
Yeah.
because it's not easy to catch up to that system when you're coming in, trying to catch a moving train like he was. And so I give him all the credit for that.
Yeah.
That said, I think this year, I hope we see more from him. Whatever that looks like, if he's in a different role, if he's in the same role, I don't know. But I, you know, like you said, it was a contract that already kind of raised some eyebrows. And it's like, yeah, that was not the best way to start. Again, through no fault of his own. Obviously did
Right.
not choose to be injured, but yeah, hoping for some different results this year.
Yeah. He will continue to be impactful off ice for
Yes.
sure.
Yes.
We will wait and see how impactful he is on ice next season.
Yes.
And I think that's how we will leave that. But thank you for that question, Tango. Great question. Really important discussion, too, because we've talked so much about the changes that Nashville has made that could be coming special teams, that could be coming offense wise. We may want to spend a little bit of time looking at maybe what did or didn't change defensively. So great discussion. We are going to switch gears to offense coming up. Want to talk about a really exciting graphic that the league put out that should make Nashville Predators fans look ahead to next season with some offensive anticipation. Today's episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. That's the formula for winning championships. It's also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you are into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. All right, Emma, got giddy over a graphic. Not gonna lie, I like a good graphic. I don't like an Excel spreadsheet, but put that information in a graphic and your girl is gonna love it. And that is exactly what the NHL did. Last week, they released a graphic showing the top goal scorers by region in 2023-24. We're not talking like Southeast, SEC, Big Ten. We're talking about like geography on the ice. So the ice was divided into 11 sections. Like we had net front, you had kind of those wide angle shots from the circles, blue line, et cetera, et cetera. And Nashville Predators fans, it's just going to make you feel really, really nice because Steven Stamkos led the league in shots from what Deandra Lou refers to as his office. And Philip Forsberg led the league in shots right in front of the net, y'all. Hello.
I mean, I feel like Philip Forsberg just unleashed, shots from all over the ice last year. It was like we saw the results clearly, became a new franchise leader, but like the more you put the puck on the net, more it's bound to go in, right? So like I think that I like this new side of his game that we're seeing, that he's just taking a lot more shots. There are a few other people, Tommy Novak, who I would like to see take more shots. Now, there's like an art to it or a science to it, however you want to say it. But like you can't just throw everything on the net and just hope it
Right.
sticks, like you need to be strategic about it. But I think that they, that system, the Brunette system, is very conducive to that kind of play, where it's like if you put the puck on the net more, then it's actually going to go in. So, yeah, I mean, we saw Philip Forsberg just taking shots from all over the place last year. So
Crazy. I went back over the weekend. I am going through hockey withdrawal. And I know we all need the off season. We all need the off season. But I'm going through hockey withdrawal, and I went back through and found a video with all of Philip Forsberg's goals from last season. Y'all, it took over 14 minutes to watch all of Philip Forsberg's goals. And this is what I want to say. Now, I know previously we talked about Ryan O'Reilly's house that Emma and I are still going to start a GoFundMe for because we want to buy it and live on Lake Huron. But I have come to the conclusion, watching those goals from last season, that Philip Forsberg's house has to be immaculate. And I say this because this young man cleans up everything. Like,
true.
I was like, okay, let's watch closely at these net front goals, because he was number one in the league, net front goals. I am telling you, there was not a puck in the vicinity of a goaltender that Philip Forsberg wasn't backhanding, wasn't hitting out of the air, wasn't wrapping around and putting in, wasn't poke checking under the goaltender. And so I have come to the conclusion, and I refuse to believe any differently, that this is a man who puts dishes in the dishwasher, who closes all of the cupboard doors when he opens them. He does not leave an empty milk carton in the fridge, because he cleans up everything, y'all.
I would love to run this hypothesis by his wife, Erin, and
Please
see
do,
and
and
see
report
what
back.
she says.
Please do, and report back, because I'm like, I watch him. I'm like, he cleans up everything.
Yeah. I mean, it's about playing all the way through, finishing every play. And that's what you see from him, is that he never, it's a cliche, but you never give up on the play. And it's like, just because it doesn't go in the first time, like, he will keep hacking at that thing until the whistle blows. Like, he will not stop. And so that's what you need. It's that relentlessness that Andrew Brunette wants to see, is like that tenacity, that, never give up on the play. And you see that from him, and that, obviously is going to translate, and we've seen it now translate into more net front shots. And
Yes.
and it's funny, because I don't know about you, but I would never think traditionally of Philip Forsberg as being a net front guy. When I think of like a net front guy, I think like Michael McCarron or Colton Sissons, like not necessarily a high skill guy, but you put them in front of the net and they can make it happen. Like, if you get them the puck, they can make it happen. This is a new side of Philip Forsberg's game that we've seen. I think that he, normally when you think of net front guys, they're not, like I said, not the most highly skilled guys, but he is highly skilled.
Gosh, yes.
And he's at the net front trying to, like you said, clean everything up, put everything away, not give up on a single play. And so that just makes him, a really, I think, well-rounded offensive player.
He is so surprising to me. And I think what you're talking about, that relentlessness, really highlights this. Philip Forsberg is freakishly strong for his size. He is not somebody in real life that you would necessarily look at and say, okay, this is clearly a professional athlete. You run into Michael McCarron, you're like, okay. You run into Luke Schenn, you're like, you must do some stuff.
Yeah.
But Philip Forsberg, I think, is freakishly strong. And to see,
he's very strong. He's very hard to move off of pucks as well. Again, for a guy who's not like freakishly large, it's surprising, but
yeah,
you're right.
And I think it so is highlighted by going back and watching some of those net front goals. And I will tell you, giddy as a schoolgirl watching Steven Stamkos score from the circle, especially on the power play, and my mind begins to dream about, okay, you've got Stamkos in one circle, put Forsberg in the other, Yossi's up top, stick Ryan O'Reilly in front of the net, and then Jonathan Marchessault kind of floating around that high slot area. I can't, I mean, because normally, as I was watching some of these Stamkos goals, I'm like, just put a guy in front of him. Find your largest player in front of him. But you can't do that. And I'm like, Nashville will have so many threats. Steven Stamkos is going to be open. Philip Forsberg is going to be open. Heaven help us, Jonathan Marchessault is going to be open. So the other thing
This is what dreams are made of.
I mean, is it not? Is it not that and a house on Lake Huron? This is what we dream of, y'all. It is. The other thing I will say, though, watching all of Philip Forsberg's goals is how much chemistry he had with Ryan O'Reilly and Gus Nyquist. I mean, there were some assists from those guys. And we heard Stamkos talk about it when he was talking about the power play and having been on a unit so long that built chemistry. When you can anticipate where that player wants the puck before they are even there. And you saw that with Forsberg, O'Reilly, and Nyquist. And it made me think, I don't know if they're going to split them up because those three really, I mean, they had such a good sense of each other. So it's going to be interesting to see how Brunette handles that.
Yeah, the way I see it with that line just being as effective as they were and, just being one of the best lines in the league statistically last year.
Yeah.
The way I see it, even with the additions of Stamkos and Marchessault, if I'm Andrew Brunette, I'm not breaking up that line until they give me a reason to.
Yes.
And I mean, they have yet to give a reason to. I mean, maybe, I don't know, I'm not anticipating this will happen, but maybe Ryan O'Reilly comes in and just has a really rough start to the year. I don't know. And then you got to decide to move things around. Things happen and you adapt, you adjust and adapt. But I think until they give you a reason to break that lineup, it's hard to justify doing it.
Yeah. As I watched it back, I had that same feeling like, man, you'd really have to sell me something to start training camp with them not together because just such chemistry, such anticipation. Really exciting. If you are going through hockey withdrawal, check out Steven Stamkos, check out Philip Forsberg's goals, and friends, Jonathan Marchessault's goals from last season. Those are pretty too. Ask me how I know. It was a slow weekend. So this is what I did.
It's the off season. We got to fill our time.
I've got to have a little bit of hockey somehow. So this is how we get it. You heard me mention it earlier. We are going to have a mailbag episode coming up later this week. Would love to get your questions. You can send them to us via social media at LO_Predators. You can drop them in the comment section of this video, and we would love to have those. It's been a crazy off season. I think there's a lot of questions about what's going to happen with the Predators. So let us know what you're wondering about. Emma and I will get to those later on this week. Before we sign off, though, Emma, let everyone know where they can find you and your work.
You can find me on social media at Emma_Lingen, and you can find my work online at The Hockey News.
And you can find my work at Penalty Box Radio. You can find me on social media at AnnK_Mama on Ice. That's going to do it for this Monday episode of the Locked On Predators podcast. Thank you for making us your first listen of the day. We'll be back tomorrow with an all-new episode. We'll see you then.